Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion, the podcast for blind people, where we speak about critical issues in the blindness community and all other issues from across the universe and galaxy. Today, we're joined by someone who is definitely blind and has definitely spends a lot of time traveling. Her name is Linsay Lusyne, and she runs a travel company and does a ton to help blind people travel from all over the world. So I don't know a whole lot about you, Linsay, but why don't you just kind of walk through your life journey and tell us everything you want to know about you, where you are now, what's going on with your travel agency, and how you really got into all this, because you do a ton of stuff. I'll mute my microphone. Go for it.
Hi, Aaron. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I am super excited to be here. Let me think where I can start. So first of all, a question that I get often is if I am blind or visually impaired. And I must say that I am not. I am sighted. And my journey started about, let's say, 8 to 9 years ago when I started working in the blind community as a guide dog trainer. So that was my very first dip in was I started training dogs. I started training people. I absolutely loved it, completely found my passion there. Then I also became a mobility and orientation instructor. So really helping people to enhance their mobility and getting from A to B in a safe way. So I absolutely love that. I'm actually from Belgium, and that's also where I started working. And after about 5 years, I moved to Canada because they needed instructors here in Canada, where I am also currently at. But my lifelong dream was actually to be able to travel full time and not have that end date. That was really my dream at that time. I was like, oh, I want to go and travel and not really having to keep that end date in mind. So that is what I did about 2 years ago. I left Canada. I went all the way across the continent, but I left a bit of a hole in my heart because I was not able to work with people anymore. I was not able to help blind people to enhance their mobility, or I could not help anyone physically. And that's when I decided I wanted to dive deeper into another passion of mine, which is travel, as you can hear, and really combine those two passions that I have. While I was diving deeper into this, I've noticed that there is a gap. So there are organizations that help people with traveling, so that have group trips where everybody gets a sighted buddy and you go and travel. And I think it's absolutely wonderful. But I noticed that there was this gap of people that are more independent, or they want to become more independent, and they still want to travel, but they just don't know how, they don't know where. So I started with helping people with getting out of their comfort zone. So the first thing I did was I started coaching people. How do I get out of my comfort zone? How do I start learning the skills? Because a lot of things is learning skills, getting out there, trying a little bit, having a couple of small steps before you can reach your goal. So it started with helping people do that. Then we advanced at going to plan trips for people. Okay, how do I start planning a trip? Okay, I'm blind. How do I start this journey? I want to go to Europe. How do I start connecting with people to make this happen? What do I need to keep in mind to make this happen? It goes from assistance in the airport to finding the right hotels to finding the right partners, activities, you name it. There is so much there in the planning process and in the booking process, and also the support on the ground when you're there. And then recently, I have this travel community online. It's called the Vision Loss Travel Community. So that is on Facebook. I would say go and check it out if you love travel. And there I really started listening to people. Okay, what is it that you need? Tell me what you need. What are you hoping for? What are you looking for? And that's why I started this year with also organizing group trips. But our group trips are a little bit different than the other travel organizations out there, as we do not work with sighted buddies. We do, however, have trained guides. So we use guides that is one guide to 2 to 3 travelers, depending on your abilities, depending on what is necessary for you. And we have small groups, a max of 10 people, where you can still be independent, but traveling group in a safe environment. And that's where we are today, Aaron. That is what we're currently doing. That's a little bit of background. So yeah, let me know what you want to know about it.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. Well, for one thing that I wanted to say was thank you for clarifying that you are a sighted person. It's really no big deal to me, but I had always had the impression that you were blind. So thank you for the clarification. And I didn't mean to create any misunderstanding, by the way, but I didn't know that you were sighted. And as I always say, sighted people are always welcome on Aaron's Opinion. So welcome aboard. We're glad to have you. So I have done several trips with an organization that is an amazing organization, but I don't want to name drop it for obvious reasons that you can understand, just for the perspective of podcasts and things like that. It almost certainly is an organization that you've heard of, though, probably based somewhere in Europe. And yes, they do group tours where you're matched with a sighted person. So let's really clarify two huge things that I have major questions about. You said that you said that you're originally from Belgium. So my first question, so originally, what got you into guide dogs? What got you into being a guide dog trainer and helping blind people in that way?
I must say the first passion that it started with was dogs. Working with dogs, I think they are absolutely incredible animals. How they enhance our lives, how they help us, and also how you can train them to do incredible things. So that's where it started. And it was because of travel, actually, that I got into this job. So let me start with a little story. I was about, I think, 24, and I've always wanted to do a solo trip. I thought that would be like really brave to go out and do a solo trip. So I finally planned one. I was going to Cuba. My friends and family completely freaked out that I was going as a woman alone to Cuba, but I did so. I did it. And at that time, my life was a bit meaningless. I had no direction. I had no passion. I did not know where I was going, what I was going to do with my life. There was just nothing there. All I wanted to do was, okay, I want to travel. Let me try out this solo traveling. Fast forward, this trip was absolutely amazing. I had a lot of challenges. A lot of things didn't go the way I planned. But when I came back actually from this trip to Cuba as a solo traveler for 3 weeks, I felt so empowered. Felt so strong. I felt like I could handle the world. I was like, oh my goodness, let me look at my life. What is not going well? I hate my job. I have no direction. I came home and I felt so empowered. I quit my job right there and then. And I started applying for my ultimate dream job, which was working with dogs, helping people while working with dogs. So anything from assistant dogs to blind guided dogs, all of that. And I landed the job. And from there on, my journey started. From there on, I really felt passion for what I do and what I want to do. And I want to help blind people because I think it is such an incredible world where as you are training these magnificent animals to become a person's best friend, partner in crime, just helping by training the dogs, helping people getting a better chance at life. And I don't mean that guide dogs are the solution for everything. And I also don't mean that guide dogs are for everyone. Definitely not. But that's how I started. It was actually because of travel. And that's why I am also so passionate about this, that if you feel stuck, if you feel like you are losing your independence, if you feel like you you don't know what to do with your life, and you're in this downward spiral, maybe travel is something for you, because travel can give you more answers. It can give you more confidence. It can give you more direction in life. And that's why I'm so passionate about trying to get more people out of their comfort zone and traveling.
So good. I completely support you, and I completely salute your message 1,000 times over. And I agree. I've traveled all over the world. I've been to France, of course, because I'm a French speaker, and then I've been all over Europe and even a country in Africa. And I've been everywhere. And you're very right. Traveling is great because it helps you to understand the world is the answer. And it's a great activity. It gets you out of the house, and it's a great thing to do because it expands your perception of society and of people. And I could not agree more. So one thing that I want to unfold that I think you said that really struck me. You said that sometimes when you initially started your company, you had to really get people out of their comfort zone, right? So give us a concrete example. Obviously, changing the names and places, but give us a concrete example where you got someone out of a comfort zone and where you really met someone who said, "Oh, Linsay, I'm just too afraid of airplanes, just too afraid to travel," and then they traveled and now they're totally hooked. I'm sure you have stories like that. Tell us.
Yes, this reminds me of a trip that I did in March. So in March, I went on a trip to Spain with one of our community members, and it was really incredible because as we are on this trip, first of all, this was an international flight, so that is already not the easiest. People land in a country where they are not sure if they will speak English or not, and there is a lot to unpack and unfold there. So as it was this person's first trip out of, let's say, the States, it was a little bit terrifying, which I 100% understand. But because of having the support of Vision Loss Travel, it makes it a lot easier because there is, first of all, you get assistance at the airport, you get assistance all the way through, right? So from the moment you arrive in the airport in your home country or your home base, all the way up till you actually reach me, let's say reach me or reach the person in the country, there is assistance all through. And then actually, yeah, we traveled through a big part of Spain, and it was really exciting because what happens is oftentimes, definitely when you're in your life and your vision is declining or you recently lost your vision, you kind of feel like your possibilities are also fading away. And what happens is that people are not 100% aware of what is possible out there. What is out there. Like, as you travel yourself to a lot of places, you must also know that everywhere you go, there are certain things that you can set in place for you to have a really comfortable, really smooth trip. And that is really what I want to show to the world as well, is like, there are so many possibilities out there, guys. Like, do you want some sighted guide all the way through? That's possible. Do you want to travel more independent? It's possible. Do you want to go in a group? There's so many things that are possible. But if I feel like the word is not spread enough, I must say, about what you actually can do and what this could mean for you. And that is a little bit what I want to bring is you can travel internationally. You do not need to necessarily know the language when you get there. There are certain things that we can set in place so that you can have a really safe trip and there's people taking care of you. Or if you want something more independent, we can build up to that. And after this trip in March, I felt like this person really had a lot more confidence and then also traveled to more places afterwards, to other places outside of the States afterwards. So I really feel like this was a great win to get this person out of the comfort zone and traveling and just having a really good time in Europe and in other places in the world.
You're so right. You're so right. Yeah, and even in my own life, I can tell you that I've traveled when well, now I'm 34, but I traveled as a child because my parents knew that it's really important to travel when you're a child. Or else when you're an adult, it becomes scary. And we have a relative, we'll just say a friend of ours who had never traveled, and then when they needed to travel as an adult, they found it terrifying. So that's a very, very, very common fear. Is, well, do I have to speak the language? What's going to happen? How does, from what we would consider mundane to us, is a very daunting thing for somebody. Well, how does the suitcase get to the other end? That's a huge point of fear for many, many travelers, is what do you do when you lose your luggage? Um, and that does happen. That happens regularly. So you have to know what to do when that happens and pack the right things in your carry-on and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it just depends. So, so do you target your trips to like only blind people, sighted people, or just the world? What would you say is your target demographic?
Um, First of all, the trips are mainly created for blind people and visually impaired that do have a good base of mobility. So you do need to be able to work either with a cane or have enough vision to freely move yourself around, right? Because I don't provide a full-time sighted guide on the group trips, right? But at the same time, everybody is welcome. So there is no age situation going on, unless you want to bring children. Then there is a bit of an age restriction for bringing young children on this trip. But if you want to bring a friend or a partner, a family member that is sighted, they are absolutely welcome on the group trips. Sometimes if the group needs to be filled, so we have a max of 10 travelers in total. Sometimes when the group needs to be filled, I present it also to other people that just want to be there, be part of it. It is not really restricted to you have to be blind. It's mainly important that you have a sense of adventure. You want to get out there. You want to socialize, and you do have a bit of a basic mobility so that you can move around freely to really enjoy the group trips.
Absolutely. That's so good. So important. So in your organization, when you guys like plan these trips, is there a list of trips that people can like choose from, or is it that people just have ideas for trips, or all of the above? How do you decide where to go?
How I decide is mainly I try and listen to the community, what they ask. So if I notice like, okay, people are talking a lot about Italy, let me see if I can create a trip around Italy. Currently, we have a handful of trips. So we have one going to Costa Rica. We have one going to South Africa, so this year and next year. And then Ecuador is also on the list, together with Galapagos or not, if you want to opt into that or not. And then I'm working behind the scenes about more destinations as well. So Spain is coming up, Italy is coming up. I think those are the main ones so far. But if you feel like, okay, I want to travel, I either want to travel solo or I want to travel with my family, people can definitely reach out to me. I can create trips anywhere in the world. You also have full freedom, a full say on what you want this trip to look like. And we can plan, we can create anything you want. Like, I'm very open-minded, whatever you feel like you want to do, we can make it happen. But of course, when it comes to group trips, these are now the destinations that we have. I am hoping to get more destinations for 2026, but I think we already have a nice amount of destinations for people to choose from right now.
Sure, absolutely. That's really, really fascinating. So, take any of these trips, these group trips. So, do people just simply go to the destination from, wherever they live in the world? How do you organize how people actually get there if people are traveling from all over the world?
Okay, that's a really good question because that's a question I get often. So it is everybody needs to be able to make it on their own to the destination. This means there is support in booking your flights. So everybody comes from a different place in the world. I do have a lot of people coming from the States or from Canada, but you can come from Europe, you can come from Australia. It really doesn't matter. So flights are not included in the group trips. There is support in booking your flight, but you get on your flight by yourself. We'll make sure you have assistance from the flight company, from the airport. And then the moment you arrive into the destination, everybody arrives in the same airport. It could be at different times, but that is okay because there will be somebody from us personally to receive you. So normally when you ask for assistance, there will be people taking you off the plane. They will stay with you until you have your luggage and until they can hand you over to one of us. And then from there on, you will have full support throughout the whole trip until the end of the trip. And then you will be brought back to the airport, go to assistance. We'll make sure you get to assistance. And then from there on, you can fly back to your home country.
Really good. Really, really, really fascinating. Yeah, well, very good. So, yeah, so you say that you have people from, the Americas and Canada. And so originally, how did you start, raising awareness for your organization? It's very hard in this technological age that we are to even get people's attention these days. So how did you originally get enough traction to build up an organization like this?
You are absolutely right. I feel in this day and age, it is hard to get people's attention because there's a lot of noise out there, and a lot of places on the internet are also not very welcoming to new things and to promotion. I actually started the vision loss travel community not really knowing at that time what I wanted to do with it. So the first thing that I started was I want to build a community where people feel safe to ask travel questions, to connect to each other, to give each other like tips and tricks and destinations. And that was the very first initiative that I started, and I actually saw that there was a lot of interest in it, and a lot of people that started coming into this community. They were very interested in travel, and they were asking a whole ton of questions, but not actually traveling. They were not actually getting out there and doing what they are dreaming of, and that's how it started the coaching. And then, from the coaching, it started with planning, because every time we go that little step further, I see what people need, I see what they are asking for, and then that's the next step. So yeah, I
Right,
feel like
sure.
now we have a really beautiful community already. There's definitely more space for more people. So I would say spread the word and come and join us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now that you're on this podcast, now certainly I will be able to tell my audience from all over the world. And I know all sorts of people, sighted and blind, who will certainly be very, very interested to connect with you and to know exactly what's going on and things like that. So that's really, really good. Really, really good to know. Yeah, yeah. What has been over the years you've been, running these trips? What has been the craziest question that anyone has asked you? Or the most interesting question you've ever asked or answered? Hmm.
As I said, I'm very open-minded. I don't think any question is too crazy for me, to be honest. No, I
But
don't
still, there's
really have
questions. But still,
one. Yeah.
people do ask interest or what was a really or a silly, not really silly, but what have been some of the funniest things that people have ever told you about traveling? You know,
You know what I can definitely share with you, I find is so interesting and crazy. It is not
right?
really a question about from a blind person that wants to travel. The craziest questions actually come from sighted people. So when sighted people know what I do and I talk about it, and the craziest question that I get, and I find it's a bit strange for me to share also with you, but the the strangest thing that I get is what is the point in traveling if you can't see?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's a really good question. Sure, sure. And what do you tell them?
Yeah. Yeah. So first, and I've been getting this question often. And first, I was a bit taken aback because I've worked with blind people so much, and they live full lives, just like sighted people.
Right.
Um, so I asked them, okay, so when you go to a destination, the only reason for you to go to that destination is to see things, is to see sights, or do you also try food? Do you also go to a concert with local music? Do you also walk through the markets and you scent all the different spices there and the language of the people? Like, do you really just travel to see things, or do you also experience travel with your other senses? And that is also what happens when you don't have your vision, or primary sense, let's say. There is so many things that you can still enjoy during the trips. And I find that is something that I actually didn't think of before, but it is one of the most common questions that I get from sighted people when I talk
Right.
about what I do.
Or the experience of it, or not only is it the language, the food, the culture, the sights, the activity, but the overarching experience of going through all of it is what the blind person would get out of it. Absolutely. Yeah, really, really, really good. Yeah, that is definitely true. Yeah. So back to your past. So what can you tell me, by the way, about working with guide dogs in Belgium?
Um, what happened in Belgium mainly was there are actually lots of guide dog schools in a very small, I don't know if you know Belgium, but Belgium is super tiny. And there's lots of guide dog schools actually, but still pretty long waiting lists. And then when I moved to Canada, it was the other way around. So not too many schools, short waiting lists, more dogs. So yeah, there is so many differences between Canada, or let's say North America, and Belgium, Europe, when it comes to supporting people. I feel also in the countries, definitely if you've traveled to Europe, you can probably also agree with that, is that there is a lot more accessibility. There is tactiles on the ground,
I've
all of the
noticed.
lights.
I've absolutely
Yeah, they have
noticed that.
sound.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel good public transport, amazing public transport, definitely in Western Europe. Um, and that was the main difference, I would say, between the countries, and in Belgium as well. Yeah.
Sure, sure, absolutely. So why are there so many guide dog schools in Belgium?
Yeah, that is a very good question. I don't know why there are so many, but at the same time, as I said, there are long waiting lists, so there is a need for it. It just, I feel like it takes a lot longer,
Hmm.
maybe, there
Right.
to get enough dogs, to train them, to everything takes a lot longer. So they just have more schools. I think also, that's not a fact. That's just what I think, is maybe more people apply for guide dogs because everybody lives in the city when you're in Belgium, because the whole country almost is a city, right? While maybe in North America, um, if you live in a rural area, it's a lot
Hmm.
harder to have a guide dog, and to be
Yeah.
blind too, obviously. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a very different mentality. And in Europe, almost everything revolves around a city. And in North America, everything kind of revolves around kind of doing your own thing a lot more. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
there are certainly cities in America, but the reality is many blind people, just like many American people, do not always live in cities and do not always live in the most urban setting. But that's what it is. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's
And it's
very
also, I feel, the challenge that you have in North America is that the cities are created for cars. It's all about the
sure.
convenience of the cars, while in Europe, it's about the convenience of pedestrians and cyclists. So it's a lot more comfortable to move
Hmm.
around in Europe as a pedestrian than it is in North America. It's
Sure
a
it
lot more
is.
challenging
Sure.
and dangerous.
And in America, at least where I am in America, America never really caught on to public transportation because our country didn't start out that way. So we never caught on to it. So we never really noticed. And most Americans, in fact, many Americans never travel. So most Americans and many Americans have never noticed that Europe is the way it is, which is a very strange thing,
Yep.
but it's an accurate thing. Yeah. That's really good. So, you travel all over the place. How long are you going to be staying in British Columbia, for example?
Currently, I am looking to go to Australia, so I'm waiting for a visa for Australia to come in, and then I'm going there. So it's right now not sure how long I'm staying. I arrived about 2 months ago, so I am also here on a visa. So that is sometimes, definitely as a long-term traveler, one of the challenges that you have is your visas, because there is no place on earth that you can stay indefinitely unless it's in your own country, or for in my case in Europe. So that is a bit the challenge when you're
Right.
also working with visas. Yeah.
Sure, sure. And where in Belgium were you, like, where in Belgium did you grow up, by the way?
Oh, I grew up by the coast, and right, being now in northern BC,
Hmm.
I really miss the ocean so bad. Like, the ocean is 7 hours away from me right now.
Really, that far? Now that's surprising. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. I thought in BC, I thought the ocean was a little bit closer. That was what I thought. I thought it was near the Pacific Ocean, right?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. BC has a lot of ocean. When you're in Vancouver, obviously Vancouver Island, you're really close to the ocean. But
Hmm.
once you start going north from there, it is a lot harder to be close to the ocean because there's not a lot of cities. And of course, it's massive, right? It's Canada, so everything is just gigantic here. But where I grew up in Belgium, I grew up right at the coastline, and my upbringing was really, the moment the weather is nice, we go to the beach, because we have the same climate as you have in the UK. Most people know the UK is pretty gray and rainy, so we're super close to that. We have the exact same climate.
Sure.
So the moment it's
Absolutely.
nice weather, it's time to go to the beach.
Yeah, because the nice weather doesn't last long enough to worry about it, to debate whether it's going to be nice weather. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
thing. That's the thing. Whereas in the Americas, the nice weather lasts a lot longer. But of course, if you're up in the Northeast, no, not at all. That would be more like what you're used to. So it does tremendously depend. Yeah, yeah. Now that you're in BC,
Yes.
I'm sure everybody's asking you. So how many grizzly bears and wildlife have you encountered up there in BC?
Actually, a grizzly I have not encountered yet. I want to see one from a safe distance, let's say. I have been in the area, there has been signs, but where I'm currently at, black bears just stroll through town. That is nothing new. You see them on the parking lot. Like, black bears are all over the place. Deer are also all over the place. Coyotes. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Sure.
at least once a week, even in the city, at least once a week, you encounter some sort of wildlife here.
Very good, very good. And so did you grow up, by the way, did you grow up speaking mostly French, German, Flemish? Like what language did you grow up speaking? I love geeking out about languages, by the way. I'm a bilingual guy.
Oh, I love languages. I always say my first language is West Flemish, so that is the dialect of the area in Flanders where I live. So that is my first language. It's really a heavy dialect. Even other Flemish speakers do not understand most of what we say. Then I would say my second language is Flemish, so Dutch actually, so proper Dutch. Then I also speak English, German, some notes of French and Spanish. So
Yeah, really
that's
good. Yeah. And
yeah.
Flemish, by the way, is very important for those out there who are not language nerds. Flemish is important because it's considered to be one of the languages that would eventually lead into the development of the Anglo language, which would eventually lead to English. So that's a very special language and a very important piece of linguistic history. That's really cool. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah,
And
that's
what else is really cool also about the dialect, actually, I don't know if you know that, Aaron, but the dialect that we have in Flanders, as our country is so small, so we have three borders, let's say, in actually, let's say four borders. Okay, so we've got Germany, we've got the Netherlands, France, and then England. So depending on where you are located in the country, your dialect is going to lean closer to the country that you're closest to. So as I am from the coast, my dialect has a lot of English notes to it. But then if you're on the French side, you're going to have lots of French in it, or, Dutch or German. And I find that it's also so interesting how it kind of blends in, on depending on which side of the country you're at.
And French, my second language, French, is the same way, depending on what province you are in France. If you're closer to another country, then you speak French with that country's accent. So I've heard that too. That's very beautiful and very, very entertaining. Sure, sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. Can you give me like one sentence of your dialect illustrating the Anglo influence so I can give me like a feel of this ancient language that you grew up speaking? Sure, if you want. Yeah.
Oh God, do you want a dialect sentence?
Yeah, where you grow up, please say a sentence of your Flemish dialect where that like illustrates like the English notes and sort of the town where you
Oof.
grew up.
Oh, you're catching me off guard here. I really need to think
You brought
about
it
that.
up. You brought it up.
Yeah, so there's a couple of words that we use. Like one, for instance, is it's not the nicest way in my dialect to call your wife, but we would say woof, me woof is da. So me woof is my wife actually, but in a little bit of a disrespectful way in dialect. Um, Now I need to think what else.
And then what's the polite, the formal, appropriate, pure Flemish way of saying my wife?
Mijn vrouw.
Okay, so a lot
So
more
with
German.
vrouw, it is
Yeah.
not very close to each other. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that second
yeah.
word sounded a lot more respectful. So, yeah, yeah, I get it. So it would be like in English where we would say like, yeah, wife, or like, yeah, I totally get it. Where you have certain words that are formal if you want to be respectful, but then if you want to be like kind of trash talk, kind of like that, kind of like, oh, that wife, like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's really beautiful. That's really, really fascinating. When you were training the guide dogs, did the guide dogs in Belgium do commands in Flemish, or what language were they trained in for their commands when you were training the dogs?
Yeah, so it's either Flemish when you're on the side I would grew up, or French. So yeah.
Oh, very good. Very, very, that's really good. That's super, super good. So what are some questions that you have for me and for Aaron's opinion? Because I want to make sure that given the time that you have, I don't know how much time you have left. Of course, I try not to look during an episode, but I don't know how long we've been speaking really. So I know you have some limitations, we all do, on time. But what are some questions you want to know about me and Aaron's opinion? And really, you can really get under my skin and make me sweat. Go right for it.
I won't make you sweat. I'm just very curious.
Sure.
I would actually love to know which destination or which trip had the biggest impact on your life.
I think the trip that really influenced me the most was a trip that I took right after graduating from university in 2015. Now, this was a time period in my life where I was still in the process of learning French. I was not fluent. I was not couramment, as I am now, but I was in my early 20s and I had just finished university. And my parents said, you're going to go to France for a month and you're going to be independent, living there independently with your guide dog, and you're going to be in French school all day. And it was the whole thought process was very daunting at first. But then after I did it, I lived in a southern town in France called Montpellier. Surely you've been there or at least heard of the place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place to go. After living there for a month, not only was I confident in French, but what I was confident about is that when you learn a second language well enough, the people do answer you and they do respect you a lot more, and they really do engage with you. And I thought that was just so fascinating. So now, as considering that I started out as a person where when I was in high school, I would have been way too embarrassed or nervous to say anything in French. Now, if I meet a French person, I always immediately speak French, and I'll go out of my way to only speak French with French people. I love surprising French people in French and having a French personality and things like that. I've even recorded a couple episodes over the years in French, actually not many. And there's shockingly very few French podcasters that are active around the community. And I don't really know why that is. That's a whole nother story. But I've found a couple French people over the years who have engaged with me on the podcast and things like that. And that's always a lot of fun. So, and actually one of them loves traveling. You probably know him. One of them loves traveling and he's French and he's a podcaster. Do you know who I'm talking about, by the way?
Not right away. Not right away.
Okay,
No.
that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. His name is Guillaume, and his podcast, because I'm sure he's fine with me plugging it because he definitely needs more downloads, is he has a podcast called basically The Blind Travelers, Les Voyages à l'Aveuglette. And he is a really, really fascinating guy to connect with. He's lived all over the world like you, and he loves traveling. Yeah, he's really cool. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that sounds interesting. I would love to meet him and talk to him. That's for sure.
Maybe on Messenger. I certainly have to ask him first, but later at a later date, I'll certainly connect you if he's okay with that. I'll certainly connect you. I don't know. Sometimes, not people are not always okay with that all the time. But I'll certainly ask him and say, yeah, have you heard of this organization? And he loves talking about travel. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
So that I would say would be an impactful trip in my life. But the answer is every trip is a little bit different because it goes a little bit differently. And every trip has had slightly different influences on me and things like that. So that's, what I can tell you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also important to understand the why of why you were taking a certain trip, because every trip that I have taken in the past had a different reason. It could be that you're like, okay, I want to know the culture, I want to know the food, okay, I want to go see that country. That's very basic. But if we dive deeper into your next trip and we're really trying to figure out the why do you actually want to go on this trip? Because oftentimes we also travel to heal, we travel to fill a gap. It could be all of a sudden your house is empty, you have an empty nest all of a sudden, or you just went through a breakup. Or, it's your birthday and you're having a new milestone, you're 30 or you're 40 now. So I feel like it's also important to kind of dive deeper into, okay, why do you want to travel? What are you trying to get out of this trip to really get the maximum out of it, to really make this trip meaningful?
Right.
I'll give you an example. Of course, going, let's say, for a week to lay on the beach in Florida is absolutely beautiful and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But it is not going to be as life-changing and as meaningful as if you would go for a week, let's say, to Costa Rica, where you get to know new people, new cultures, and you really go with a certain intention. You really go, okay, I'm here to heal a certain wound. So you can actually go with that intention and find that in your trip and come home and really reap the benefits of you being on a vacation, on a trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, and a lot of people come into the United States and they come to Florida. They go to Florida and it's, that's a big deal for people because Florida is hot. It's very different. Nothing's like Florida. It's, all the states are different from Florida. So it does depend on what part of the world you're from. Generally European people like yourself, usually like the Western United States, or Western Canada as you are. And usually you like a warmer or at least a pleasant outdoor environment. That's one thing that I've heard too, is if you come from Europe, you want the weather to be nice, So that's one consistency.
Yeah, it really depends on what you're looking for, right? Like, and that's why it's also important if you want to travel more, but you don't really know how or where to, that it's also important to talk to a professional and really together figure out what it is that you want to do. Yeah, do you want to go more tropical and have nice weather, and or maybe a certain destination that you have in mind might not be as you think it is, and then maybe there is another destination that suits you better to get what you actually are hoping for or wanting. So if you're not sure about a certain destination, it's always better to talk either to a well-traveled person or to a professional to really get clarity on what it is that you want, what it is that you want to achieve with this trip, and then start planning the right destination for you.
Absolutely. Really, really, really good. Really good. So what are some of your final places where you really want to go in the world? Surely you've traveled all over, but everybody has their bucket list or their one place that, they say, before I die, I've got to go to that place or I've got to have that meal. What is that for you?
Ooh, I would say the highest on my list, but it is not, it's, it's Antarctica. That is a place that I definitely want to go.
Absolutely. Go. I'm definitely not stopping you. Go for it. That's an amazing place. My parents' friends went there and they said it's amazing. There's two things that are amazing about it. It's amazingly cold and it's amazingly expensive and amazingly exhausting, but it's amazing. Go for it.
Yeah.
It's
incredible.
I would love to do that trip. I would go. The problem with Antarctica though is the cost. For most blind people, in case you were thinking about getting that set up, don't. In case you want to do that, don't do it because the cost. The problem is the cost of actually getting the ship to go to Antarctica and getting onto those cruisers and cruise all the way over to Antarctica. Those ships that is a very costly cruise. It's ridiculous.
It's so expensive. And let me tell you, Aaron, I cannot afford it myself. I don't know if I will ever be able to afford it myself.
Why'd you bring it up? If you can't. Okay, I see. Well, I do understand. Yeah.
You should dream big. I think that is so important.
It is.
Even if it's not reachable right now.
That's true. That's true. You can dream big, but also I tell other blind people, and maybe you've told people something similar. It's also important when you travel to have an appropriate expectation, a realistic goal, So that's why it is important to realize, well, maybe I don't really have enough money for that trip. And so maybe I'll never end up going, or maybe people would say, Australia is nice, but the flight's just too far, So there's always limitation, Yeah, really good.
There is a limitation, yes. Maybe I have a slightly different opinion because I also feel it depends on how badly also you want something. Let's say, for instance, now pick my dream of going to Antarctica. I cannot afford that right now. I don't know if I could ever afford it. But it will always be on top of my list. And I think that is why dreaming big is important, because life is full of surprises. You never know what's going to happen. That does not mean like I'm planning it in 2 years from now, but it will always stay on my list. You never know what happens. Maybe there is an opportunity all of a sudden. Life is full of really great surprises sometimes, and it's important to stay open to that.
You're so right. What are some final questions you have for me? As we always like to say, if you can ask me only one question to make me sweat, which you kind of did by asking me an impactful trip, but what are some other final questions you want to ask?
Let me think. I wonder if you would have a friend right now who really wants to travel, but is too scared to do so. What would you tell him? What would you feel? What would your motivation be to get this person out of their comfort zone?
I would say to that person that not only is it okay to be scared to travel, because traveling is scary, but it's also what I have seen is that the people who are scared to travel are the people who appreciate it the most. Look, we have in our own family, and I'll just call him a relative or a friend or whoever he might be, but we have someone in our family who was so afraid to travel, and now he can't stop traveling, and he's sighted. So, the thing is, if you're afraid, that's kind of a good thing because it shows that you have a lot to overcome and it shows that you have a lot much more to see in the world. So my advice is if you're afraid, it's okay to be afraid. But once you do it the first time, you'll love doing it. And that's why you should do it because it's only going to be scary once and then it's not. Yeah. That's what I would say.
So true.
So
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. And be careful. It is highly addictive.
And highly expensive.
Also, yeah.
And highly exhausting. And,
It is. It
and
is.
it never really, yeah. But surely you have a place in Belgium that you can at least go back to when you need to rest between your trips, right?
Yes, I mainly go. I try to go once a year back to Belgium to visit friends and family, and then I have my home base there.
Right, sure. So anyway, how can someone get in touch with your organization? If they're listening to this episode and they want to learn more about the trips that are offered and things like that, how can they get in touch?
The best way to get in touch is either to go to our Facebook page, which is the Vision Loss Travel community. So you're very welcome there. Everybody is welcome there. You can also send me an email, which is visionlosstravel@gmail.com, or go to the website. Same thing, visionlosstravel.com.
Very good. And on there you have the Facebook group too. That Facebook page is a group, I believe, by the way, right? Yeah.
That's a group. Yes.
Yeah, that's a group. Yeah. That's all really, really good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. You did a magnificent job, as I knew you would do, and just thank you. And keep traveling. Stay safe out there, certainly. And if you have any questions about the podcast now that you're on it, I will certainly be adding you to my communities because I have a community of people all over the world who want to learn from you and everything like that. So, Linsay, thank you. And of course, keep traveling and stay safe out there. And until next time, everybody, help one person today, help 1 million people tomorrow.